Chapter 11, Section 3. Learn to solve equations with variables on both sides of the equal sign. In our essential question, we're still working on how do I write an equation from a word problem. Some problems produce equations that have variables on both sides of the equal sign. Solving an equation with variables on both sides is similar to solving an equation with a variable on only one side. You can add or subtract a term containing a variable on both sides of an equation. This is what this will look like. 4x plus 6 equals x. Now the x's are on separate sides. You have to think of that equal sign as a barrier. So we can't combine 4x plus x because they're not combined on the same side. So now we have to decide how can we change 4x plus 6 into an equation that we can work with. Well, we always need the x's on the same side together. So let's start by trying to move one of the x terms to the side with another one. It doesn't matter which one you choose, but it makes sense to try to get the numbers and variables on opposite sides. So if we choose the 4x, we would need to subtract 4x to equal 0. And we can take x minus 4x because that's just like a 1x. So 1x minus 4x would give us negative 3x. So now the 6 is all by itself and the equals negative 3x. Now it's a one-step equation like we're used to. Divide by negative 3 on both sides and x equals negative 2. Now when you check your solution, make sure you plug the variable value into every possible spot that it needs to go into. So if we check our solution for this, it would be 4 times negative 2 plus 6 equals negative 2. And it does come out as a correct solution. 9b minus 6 equals 5b plus 18. Looking at the equal sign as a barrier, we have a variable on both sides, and we actually then have a number on both sides, which we call a constant. It's totally up to you which you choose to move. The way that I do it might look different than the way that you do it, but it needs to get the same answer. So one of the things we could choose to do first would be to take the 5b away from both sides. Anytime you can keep numbers positive, that works really well. Notice that we subtract the 5b from the 9b because those are the only terms that can be combined. So we get 4b minus 6 equals 18. Now it's a two-step equation. How do we get b by itself? We start by adding 6 to both sides. 4b equals 24. Our last step is to divide both sides by 4 so that b equals 6. Again, if you're going to check your answer, plug it into both sides of the equation where b is. 9w plus 3 equals 9w plus 7. Just thinking about this equation for a minute, if I have 9w on both sides and I add 3 to one side and add 7 to the other, does that seem like it'll be a balanced equation to you? Well, let's see what happens if we try to solve this. If we subtract 9w from both sides, we get 3 equals 7. Okay, but in our world, 3 does not equal 7. So if this is the case, we would call this no solution, meaning it doesn't matter what number we plug in for w, it will never ever work. So all you need to write down if you get to a thing at the end where it's two numbers that are not equal, it'd be no solution. A common misconception though, if you have x equals 0 or w equals 0, 0 is the number. That is the solution. There should be no variables left if it's no solution. Let's add some more terms. 10z minus 15 minus 4z equals 8 minus 2z minus 15. Remember from section 2, the first thing we want to try to do is simplify on each individual side. So let's start by combining like terms. So on the left-hand side, we have 10z minus 4z. On the right-hand side, we have 8 minus 15 that can go together. Once we do this, we get 6z minus 15 equals negative 2z minus 7. Now we don't have anything that can be combined, so we need to start moving things. So we could move the 6z by subtracting, we could move the 15 by adding, we could move the negative 2z by adding, or we could move the minus 7 by adding. Well, let's add 2z, because that'll keep our variable positive. Once we do that, we have 8z minus 15 equals negative 7. Next step is to add 15 to both sides. 8z equals 8. Divide by 8, and z equals 1. If you were doing this problem in your notes or in your homework, it should look exactly like this. You must show your work. There are too many steps, too many areas that we can make mistakes, and if we don't show our work, we can't figure out where we went wrong. Showing your work is a requirement. Just a reminder of the steps to follow when solving multi-step equations. Clear the fractions if there are any. Simplify and combine like terms. Then you start by undoing addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, solving for the variable, and checking your answer. Let's address our essential question with a word problem. Daisy's Flowers sell a rose bouquet for $39.95 plus $2.95 for every rose. A competing florist sells a similar bouquet for $26 plus $4.50 for every rose. Find the number of roses that would make both florist bouquets cost the same price. So let's think about this. It would cost us $39.95 plus $2.95 times the number of roses. That's R. That needs to equal $26 for the bouquet plus $4.50 for every rose times R. So let's solve for R and see how many roses we need to make this equivalent. Well, let's combine the variables first and subtract the smaller one from the larger one. So take $4.50 minus $2.95. So now $39.95 equals 26 plus 1.55R. Subtract $26 from both sides. So $13.95 equals $1.55 per rose. Lastly, to figure out the number of roses, divide by $1.55 to both sides, and R equals 9. So what does that answer mean? That means if you buy 9 roses, you could go to either of the bouquet shops and it's going to cost you the same amount. If you buy anything more or anything less than 9, then one of the stores would be cheaper. Make sure your notes are filled out completely. On the left-hand side, write questions that can be answered from the material in your notes. Again, try to level your questions. Try not to have all level 1s. Push yourself to write some level 2 and level 3 questions. Review your notes by chunking, highlighting, underlining, and complete the summary before class.